Councillor Collins, please make your speech.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Colleagues, budget setting, as has been said, is one of the most important duties we as councillors have to perform. The current proposed budget by the Conservative administration, to our mind, has faults and, to our minds, lacks ambition for the future of Southend. I'm pleased to be able to offer colleagues here and residents listening an amendment package that leads and deals with improving this proposed budget. The leader made reference about how it's been done. I can assure him and other members listening that the four group leaders spent a great deal of time discussing ideas with officers and then in turn with the 151 officer and coming to this paper that's in front of you. It's been considered, and as Councillor Cowan has referenced, decisions made have been costed, are part of the paper here, and also for scrutiny, anybody wants to talk about this after this evening's meeting. And indeed, we've been conservative with a small c about how we've put some of these figures together. I do take exception to the fact that we've just made something that hasn't balanced. We do. Going to the amendment in substantive parts, if I may, Mr. Mayor. First, the difficult part, the cost that we propose to raise to help pay for some of these changes that we make. To increase the car parking charges in Zone 1A, which is, for those listening, our seafront, by a figure close to inflation, is better than the current administration's proposal of not raising at all. We feel that that's not fair. Why should our visitors not contribute to our inflationary increases that we have to do for street cleaning there, for maintenance and security? It's important that we ask our visitors to pay an inflationary increase that matches our costs for those. To reintroduce the 6 to 9 parking again into Zone 1A, but not to charge our Southend pass holders. This is in case of increase of charging times, they will not pay anything extra at all. We do value the Southend pass on this side of the chamber, as do thousands of residents that use it. And we want to encourage an even higher take-up in this budget amendment process, a discount, as has been mentioned by Councillor Cowan, of 16.6% if they decide to pay for it 1 year in advance. We want to see it promoted across Southend and in our neighbouring areas to encourage more people into Southend. By bringing people into Southend is an important task for us, and we need vision. And our motion sets out, for example, to raise income by $165,000 to hold events such as, for example, El Galleon, the Waverley on the Pier, City Jammers in the past, and other ideas that we want to bring forward. We need more of these events, and we need more of them and people visiting us to bring footfall for our businesses across the city. Other exciting ideas, and something that I felt was missing out of the Conservatives' proposed budget, is the environment. I don't think it does nowhere near enough to tackle, as best we can in our small way, climate change. I draw people's attention to the proposal to improve the implementation of the grassland management strategy, to bring a cut and collect strategy across our verges for all sorts of reasons. It's environmentally good, and also would be good to keep our gullies clear. I also have learnt from being in Cabinet year before about bringing in a grassland management strategy that was just basically across the city regardless. That doesn't work. We need to show by picking roads that have no residents living nearby them or on them of what can be done through going through the, for example, Eastern Avenue, Royal Artillery Way, Prittle Chase as detailed in the amendment, and actually scour out the grass and seed with restricted growth seed mix and maintain it that way. That way you'll be saving money by not actually cutting the grass once a year. You'll actually encourage better pollination. And as has been mentioned by Councillor Wexham, who teaches me all the time about these things in the environment, getting rid of just ryegrass, which dominates, is not good as we were doing it before. We need to do it in a better way, in areas that are not near residential properties necessarily, so people can see what a proper policy is, and hopefully encouraged, come to us and say, oh, can we have that in our area? This is something we need to learn to move forward with. So having discussed, and also the budget from the Conservatives has no tree planting capital budget in it. It's just astonishing. So we propose in this amendment to move money from climate change provision of £150,000 into new highway street trees in that financial year. So having discussed raising charges, we now move to where we want to move some of these funds onto. onto the residents and the fabric of Southend to increase and help our city going forward. We feel it's important to bring back the graduate programme from its being cancelled to grow our own professional staff. Long said by this council that we have way too many agency staff, and that's true of our professional areas, audit, legal, etc. If we continue with the graduate programme, we'll have every chance of having our own staff and not the need for agency. So it's a very good investor save, and we want to stop the cut proposed by the Conservatives in their budget. As mentioned by Councillor Cowan, we want to expand the Council's community support team by 3 new roles for security and better community support across the whole city, to hire 3 more civil enforcement officers, or traffic wardens they used to be called, to help stop dangerous parking around schools. I'm sure all councillors across this chamber are fully aware of that and the issues that we see every day that residents tell us about, and we need to have a better presence to make sure our children go to school safely, especially outside the school gates. We also want to increase the Conservatives' budget's figure for highway pavements investment by a further £2.5 million, which is paid for in this amendment. We do want to restrict the Conservatives' proposal to increase cremation and burial charges, which were proposed and are proposed at 15% and 20% respectively, to just 10% in line with inflation. Clearly that helps residents and in difficult times for them, and it's the right thing to do. We want to invest a further £100,000 on top of their figure in future events to bring more visitors in. We do understand car parking charges is emotive, and I think by asking visitors to pay on inflationary charge more in their area, 1A, we then reduce what we ask our residents to pay in our other car parks across the city and street parking, by, as Councillor Cowan said, by an average of 11.14%, enabling people who work and come to Southend to pay less for that, to bring more people here. And I'm aware yesterday at Rochester District Council have made that same cut in their half-hour parking charges to reduce it. So it's clearly something we need to do to bring people here. Last, to reverse the actions proposed by this Conservative budget over the dementia navigators and their closure of the service. Our proposal here talks about, as Councillor Cowan has said, retaining 4 members of staff plus 1 part-time member. This has to be reviewed, and this is something that is going to be a conversation, but this is an important amendment charge, and people around this room listening to this find it very, very personal to them and to their families, and we should not let them down at this stage. So we urge all councillors to consider that role very carefully. Mr Mayor, it would have been good to prepare this paper with all parties, but we know, and I know, the Conservatives do not agree fundamentally with increasing charging our visitors, which is a modest increase in this paper, on seafront parking. So it would have been fruitless for us to try. So on our side of the chamber, in opposition, we have come together to offer what I regard is an exciting, innovative budget amendments, and I urge all members of this council to vote for it. Thank you, Mr Mayor.